Welcome to the February meeting of the Historic Conservation Commission. I'm Craig Evans. I'm the vice chairman, and I would like to introduce the commission to you. On my left over here at the other table is Jeffrey Long, our historic officer and a registered architect. To my left is Todd Chambers, business owner, and has interest in the South Side. To my right is Desiree Strasser, resident of the Mount Airy District, and Mike Simonson, Chief Building Inspector. It is the purpose and intent of the City of Bethlehem to promote, enhance, and preserve historic resources and traditional community character for the education, cultural, economic, and general welfare of the public through the preservation, protection, and regulation of buildings and the areas of historic interest or importance within the city, which have been determined to be of local, state, or national significance. The way the meeting will unfold is that the applicants will be taken in order after identifying the project address, and the presenters, our historic officer, will provide a background on the building and any recommendations that at that time the applicant will present their project and plan. The board will then address the project, allow public comment. And if you'll forgive me for a second, I lost my page. At that time, the applicant will present their project, and the board will then address the project, allow public comment, and ultimately create a motion to approve as presented, approve with modifications, table the project with clear recommendations, or deny the project with reasons for the denial and changes or improvements which would result in a positive recommendation. For public comment, there is a 3-minute time limit, and comments must be specific to the attributes of the building only. Speakers are to announce themselves with their name and address before speaking and sign in. The HCC is a recommending board, and the results of our meeting will be presented to City Council, and their vote will be binding. Please do not forget to secure your permit from the permit office on the first floor of City Hall before you begin your project. Above all, I'd like to remind everyone to conduct themselves in a civil manner and always use a civil tone. The commission is here to help you with your project, and we are a group of volunteers who are dedicated to historic preservation and the restoration of older buildings in Bethlehem and beyond. If any commission members have a conflict of interest with any of the applications on tonight's agenda, please come forth now. Okay, and I'll ask everyone, please, there's a 45-minute time limit. Proposals for large projects. Upon a second visit to the commission for large-scale projects, the following will be an architectural plan with lot lines, facts, defined features, all measurements including the amount of floors, foundation walls, parapet, window sizes, and the like. A complete set of elevations of the buildings with streetscapes, drawings, showing the new structure in context with the surrounding buildings is required. And with that, we will begin our meeting following the agenda. The first item on the agenda will be 1506 Calypso Avenue.
Hi, thanks for hearing me. My name is Ed Wolford with Nature Valley Landscaping. So the project at 1506 Calypso, we're just proposing to put a split rail fence to match the neighbors around the back of the lot that they had purchased a couple of years back.
Good.
They have a pool, currently an existing pool with a fence across the back. So we're proposing to just take that out and extend a split rail fence to match the neighbors and, finish, tidy in the yard.
Okay, Jeffrey?
So 1506 Calypso Avenue. There is no structure at this street address. However, the empty lot seems to serve as the backyard to the detached stone residential structure located at 1505 Prospect Avenue. As Mr. Wolford stated, the applicant proposes to install a new 48-inch high split rail fence with a black mesh in the front and side yards, or better said, the backyard and the side yards, depending on how you interpret. The guideline citations that I use for my assessment include the Secretary of Interior Standards number 9 concerning new additions, exterior alterations, and related new construction will not destroy the historic materials, features, spatial relationships that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and will be compatible with the historical materials, features, size, scale, and proportion, as well as massing to protect the integrity of the property and its environment. Also, the ordinance that Mr. Evans read at the beginning of tonight's meeting, and then the overall design guidelines for the Historic Conservation Commission. My evaluation, the effects on the district, and recommendations. The certificate of appropriateness application indicates the intent to install a new 48-inch high split rail fence adjacent to the concrete sidewalk along Calypso Avenue and along both sides of the property. There's no scale drawings of the proposed fence that accompanies the application, and there are no written specifications of any materials proposed for the project. The accompanying photographs seem to indicate, and as Mr. Wolford stated, the proposed fence is inspired by the existing split rail fence at the adjacent property that extends along the remaining block of Calypso Avenue and then turns along 15th Avenue. That fence is constructed of evenly spaced wooden posts with 3 split wooden rails inserted between each pair of posts. So they don't describe how they're doing it. They just say they're matching, and so I'm describing what is existing. There is a supplemental site plan. It's a photo, probably from Google Earth from above, that indicates the proposed fence layout indicated in black. And it also seems to depict that would swing into the property avenue. That's not indicated anywhere except for that graphic. The proposed fencing at both sides of the property would extend to meet the existing metal picket fence that's at the rear of the residence. The relevant design of similar or complementary color, size, texture, scale, craftsmanship, and applicability of function performed. Traditional materials such as brick, wood, stone, terracotta, and wrought iron are recommended, end quote. Those same guidelines continue that the HCC, quote, will not recommend vinyl, aluminum, or asphalt siding, painted or exposed concrete or concrete block, ornamental pierced concrete masonry walls and screens, chain link fencing, or vinyl fencing, end quote. A visual assessment of the Mount Airy Neighborhood Historic District reveals that approximately half of all properties have no fencing at all. The other half utilize plantings, of the other half of those utilize plantings to delineate property boundaries, while the remaining properties include brick walls. So about 25% of all properties have some physical wall. They include brick walls, wrought iron, wooden picket fences, etc. The existing fence at the neighboring property is the only example of split rail fencing found within the district, and implies a more rural setting not typical for the rest of the district. However, the size of this and the adjacent empty lot, along with the location at the westernmost end of the district boundary, can be perceived as somewhat rural in character. Compared with relevant design guidelines, the proposed fence does use a material that is similar in color, size, texture, scale, craftsmanship, and applicability of function performed, pending clarification by the applicant that the proposed fence matches the materials and details of the existing adjacent split rail fence. Without any provided details or product specifications, the proposed black mesh, and that's really the only wording used in the application, discussion is definitely warranted before appropriateness of that specific detail can be determined. Noting that relevant design guidelines discourage the use of chain link and vinyl fencing within the district.
Thank you, Jeff. Can you give us some details on the mesh or netting or whatever is?
It's a wire mesh that's black. It has a black plastic kind of coating to it. I don't know if we're all familiar with that. It's just, it comes in rolls, and you just roll it out along the split rail fence, and that's what secures it and makes the project pool code.
Is that more like a chicken wire size?
Yeah, it's like 1x3 squares, little. Yep. Yeah. I mean, it
And
comes in green or black, but I thought black would probably just blend the best. I mean, green you're going to see, green's going to stand out, but from a distance, you're not even going to notice that the mesh is on there.
and what species is the wood for the fence? Is that cedar or
No, it's spruce.
spruce?
And is it the 3 split rail?
Mhm.
To match?
Exactly.
Any other questions?
Mesh is typical for if the use is using here since it's for a pool.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The meshing for the split rail is a typical code requirement when it's split rail fence is used in conjunction for pool safety.
Okay.
So I'm pretty familiar with it. It's not your typical like metal fencing or anything like that. It's really like a chicken wire, kind of just a reinforced,
So you don't crawl through.
so nothing gets through.
Sorry.
Yeah, they're on.
Can you hear me now? I'm sorry. So just to reiterate what I just said is the chicken wire mesh fencing that he's planning on using is a typical use for that style of fencing for pool compliance, code wise.
Can you tell us about the gate that's indicated along Calypso?
The gate will be 2 4-foot sections of split rail fence that, they have two posts on either side with support braces, double black
So it's
hinges.
the same material as
Same
the
material.
fence.
Mhm.
Got it.
Is there a motion?
Do we have to take public or?
Oh,
Anybody here from the public?
thank you.
All right, motion to approve the fence as submitted.
Oh, second. I'll second that.
All right, and take a vote. Todd?
Yes.
Aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
I did, yes. I did. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, 305, 307 East 4th Street.
Hello. I was here before with Christina, so I got everything that we had asked approved during while we were renovating. I guess on the 305 side, closed some second floor windows along the left side as we were constructing and talking to the contractor.
We just needed you to introduce yourself.
Oh,
just for
I'm sorry.
record. It's okay.
Chad Jarrah, representing Fulton Road Properties, the owner of the property.
All right. Thank you so much.
Sorry.
No,
Okay.
That's fine.
Should I go now? Should I?
To do my part
Oh,
first.
my bad.
Thank you. It's okay. We need to split this into 2 agenda items
Okay,
because it relates to 2 different. City requires fairly recently, even with and so the building. The gable roof is sheathed in asphalt shingle and includes a central dormer with the gable roof and 2 1/1. The building dates from circa 1890 with a single-story front porch across the entire front facade. However, those have been lost over time. During the mid-20th century, the front porch was enclosed and a second story was added. However, remnants of the front porch steps are still visible at the far left. Changes over time include horizontal siding at the upper floor level, unpainted stucco at the entry floor level, inappropriate windows at both floor levels, and an inappropriate flush metal front door, entrance door installed off-center, along with unpainted pressure-treated railings at the front. Exterior modifications recently determined by HCC as appropriate are currently ongoing, as the applicant stated, and include new roofing, new siding at the front and rear facades, new windows at both floor levels, and new entrance doors at the front and rear facades. The applicant proposes modifications to the certificate of appropriateness recommended as appropriate by the HCC during their meeting on August 18, 2025, and subsequently approved by City Council. The proposed modifications include removal of an upper level picture window, for lack of a better term, on the west or the side facade, and then covering the resulting opening with siding to match the existing siding. So there was a photograph of the front, but really the side we're talking about, there's no photos. So I'm going to, for the record, distribute.
Jeff, I think there is.
Mhm.
I think it's
Oh.
the second one.
Oh, okay. I didn't get that one. So,
Yeah.
okay. I think I just got the very front one. So thank you. If need clarification, I have larger ones. So thank you. My guideline citations for my assessment include the Secretary of Interior Standards number 9 that I just cited in the previous item, the ordinance that Mr. Evans cited, and the Historic Commission design guidelines. My evaluation of the effects on the district and recommendations. The certificate of appropriateness application indicates the intent to modify the previous certificate to include the removal of a large format picture window at the upper floor level of the west or side facade located near the corner with the south or front facade, and cover the resulting opening with new exterior siding to match the existing siding. Rather than a complete window removal, the appropriate solution, however, would be replacing the inappropriate, I agree it's an inappropriate picture window, with an appropriately sized window that aligns vertically with the existing window at the entry level. So if your photograph you have indicates there's a window on the entry level immediately below the picture window, an appropriate solution would have a window on both the sides that would align vertically. He is replacing windows on the front facade, so it would be a similar window than from the front on the side. The details associated with new windows would include the following. He had received approval for Anderson 100 series or comparable composite double hung windows with 2/2 simulated divided lights with the muttons installed on the exterior. The color was off-white or almond. The windows at the upper floor level are 5 feet tall, and the window trim is composite with a smooth surface. The sills and lintels would extend beyond the window openings. So those were resolutions or details passed on the previous resolution. For the windows on the front facade, my suggestion is they would be just as valid for the side facade. The previous certificate defined appropriate new siding at the front and rear facades as, quote, fiber cement lap siding with a smooth finish and a 7-inch reveal exposure in either sage or Navajo beige color, while the existing siding at the side facade was to be gently power washed to avoid damage. So based on the applicant's proposal, he wants to match the existing siding on the side facade, and that's important for the following. The proposal to cover the resulting opening after the picture window has been removed to match the existing siding is problematic. Relevant design guidelines note that aluminum and vinyl siding as exterior cladding materials are inappropriate within the district. However, the cladding at the side facade appears to be vinyl. Do you have a confirmation? Is it vinyl or aluminum?
I think the lower portion was a brick and the upper portion may have been aluminum, but it's all going to be, I thought that part we had approved, but maybe I'm wrong. Is it going to be the hardy backer?
It stated the front facade would be the hardy, and for you to gently clean the side facade.
Okay.
So it wasn't clear to me which you were matching, I guess is what I'm
Okay.
asking.
Yeah.
So-
that was my mistake.
Oh,
I
that's
had
okay. We'll get to
thought we
it.
were doing the I thought that was from before, but if I'm supposed to keep the brick, that's fine. I could paint it or
Oh.
whatever.
No, the brick is at the low. It's okay. So in my opinion, an appropriate solution would be removal of the existing siding, replace the window with an appropriate window. There will be a gap, not only a hole, but also that entire facade will be missing its cladding. As he perhaps just now suggested, the fiber cement lap siding intended for the front could then wrap around the side. There is a vertical joint. As he mentioned, there's some brick facade at the lower facade, that's the enclosed porch. And there's a vertical seam, which is the division between the brick and what I think is the vinyl siding. That could be an appropriate location for a division between the hardy board siding and the existing siding. But again, that can be discussed with the commission. So that's the conclusion of this street number. Has to do with the window replacement and what to do with the siding.
Okay, so at this point, what we should do is discuss that and we'll vote on this particular section
Okay.
of your changes.
All right. So one of the first things I was requesting was the upper, for the 305 side, the upper left side, I think you had said the west side, removing the 2 windows that had been approved. That was more of a, as we were going, it seemed like too many windows with the 2 big front ones and the side one. It was more of a functional thing that it didn't seem like there was enough room for other like wall hangings or putting a bed against. It just seemed like too many windows. If it's not approved, it's okay. It seemed more functional to remove them and then just put the siding all the way through them.
Any other questions about that or?
I'm confused. We're talking about the left hand, and when we're looking at this elevation, we're talking about the left hand
The left side, yeah,
left
305.
structure.
Correct.
You said 2 windows, but there's 3
Then
across the
3.
front.
Yeah, whatever's there is correct.
And then on the side, there's a triple window, which basically is 3 single windows mulled together to form a larger opening.
Right.
That is the one you want to eliminate.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to be
No, thank you.
crystal
course.
clear. Yeah.
And that picture window, for lack of a better term, and the 3 windows all empty into the same room.
Yeah. There's an interior picture.
Yeah,
think.
I just wanted
This
to make
one?
sure.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
In
Okay.
that picture, I think it shows that it's framed over. So, but you could see the spots where the windows would go.
Right.
Yep.
So I agree with Jeff. That I don't particularly care for the triple window, but I feel like architecturally there should be a single window stacked above the single window on the first floor. Are you willing to put that in, or you want to get rid of them altogether?
I could put one in. It wasn't, it wasn't something I'm losing sleep over. It just felt like there were so many windows there
I completely agree.
that it was too much for
But
what was gonna be used now.
from the exterior, the architectural solution of having the windows stacked
Hmm.
is the appropriate solution for the district. So
Okay.
that's what I'd like to see happen.
So just so I understand, one window instead of 3?
Yes.
Okay.
And directly above the one below it.
Okay. Yep. I'm okay with that.
And then in terms of the siding, if we're done with the window discussion,
Mhm.
I do agree that the siding on that side should match the siding we have on the front elevation. We can run it back to the existing siding, which is what material?
This is
Aluminum?
this is for the other side, but it's the same material, just in the.
No, I
same-
understand we're putting the hardy siding on, but what's the existing siding material on the side of the building?
On this
That's the
side,
window.
Yeah.
well, the top portion's already gone. I think they put the home wrap over it.
Yep.
But it may have been aluminum siding,
Okay.
top.
So,
And then-
so we'll have a vertical transition, basically a vertical transition or trim strip
Yep.
between the hardy siding and the existing aluminum siding.
Correct. And
You're
then I
going
was
to paint it
just-
all the same color.
Well, I was going to just keep going, wrap it around with that siding all the way around to the front
Oh,
for
fantastic.
everything.
Even better. Okay.
Yeah. Any further discussion? Any public comment? I move that we recommend a certificate of appropriateness for the installation of a single window in the current opening with the siding hardy board or cementitious siding to be applied as described from across the front and turning on the side to a vertical trim strip on the west facade. Color to be approximately wool skein.
No, that's
Yeah,
So
for
this is for the brick.
that's for the 307 side. The 305 is the sage. It's like a green. hunter
Okay.
green.
Fantastic. We don't care about color anyway, right?
Yeah. Well,
Well, we
only
do
on-
care, but
Only on a permanent product.
right.
So, okay. Second,
I'll second.
Todd?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next part of it.
So what I'll call agenda item 3B, we had 3A. Thanks for your patience on that. So 307 East 4th Street. This structure is a 2.5-story, 3-bay, semi-detached wood frame mixed-use commercial and residential building. Although I believe you're changing it to solely residential when this is all over. The gable roof is sheathed in gray asphalt shingles and includes a central dormer with a gable roof and 2 1/1 double-hung windows. The building dates from circa 1890 and once included a single-story front porch across the entire front facade. Similar structures nearby indicate that it originally had classical revival architectural details. However, those have been lost over time. During the early to mid-20th century, the front porch was replaced with a 2-story masonry addition with an upper parapet and a flat roof, along with expressed window sills and lintels. The structure also received rear additions during the mid to late 20th century. The proposed alterations, the applicant proposes a modification to the certificate of appropriateness that was recommended as appropriate by the HCC during their meeting on August 18, 2025, and subsequently approved by City Council. The proposed modification includes the painting of the front briquette facade to match the color of the existing siding. The guideline citations I used for my assessment include the Secretary of Interior Standards number 9 that I referenced previously, the ordinance that was referenced by Mr. Evans, and the General Historic Conservation Commission design guidelines. My evaluation, the effects on the district and recommendations. The certificate of appropriateness application indicates the intent to paint the existing front briquette facade in a color that matches the color of the existing siding, which represents a modification to the existing certificate that stated, quote, the existing brick facade at the front, side, and rear facades are to be gently cleaned and left unpainted, while the existing siding at the side facade is to be gently power washed to avoid damage, end quote. So relevant design guidelines state that the HCC will not recommend for approval applying waterproofing or water repellent coatings on masonry and stucco, end quote. The HCC has traditionally interpreted this guideline to include recommending paint applied to unpainted masonry and stucco surfaces as inappropriate. So a discussion with the applicant is warranted to understand the necessity for the proposed painting. Should the HCC determine that the exterior painting is appropriate, the applicant should confirm that the front and side facade, so the application says front, but if I'm assuming you have accompanying photographs, this briquette facade treatment extends around the corner, quite similar, a mirrored effect to what we just had with the other front porch. It's not just a flat front, it really does continue around the corner. So should you determine the exterior painting is appropriate, I would appreciate confirmation that both the front and the side facades are both to be painted. And also, it was not clear to me which siding is being matched. We do have a paint chip color here. The previous certificate talks about gently power washing the existing siding. And so I didn't know if it was an attempt to match that, or maybe, as we saw with the previous one, the applicant has come up with a different approach for the side cladding as well. It's just hard to know right now.
So for the right side, the 307 side, we, as he had stated, we're going to clean the brick. But as we started renovations, I thought it was brick. It actually wasn't brick. It was the briquette. An old air conditioner was removed. So I thought it'd be nicer then, since it wasn't brick. I thought that was like the sticking point to continue or stop the siding, I believe, where the briquette ends, and then paint the brick in the front a color that matched the siding that would stop in where the briquette was. So I just thought it looked nicer and cleaner to continue with that around, since it wasn't brick. I think it wasn't. From the pictures, it doesn't seem like it is to me. And also just so there's no questions on the front, the contractor ordered the wrong windows above. They're too small. We did reorder better windows. You could see there's like some wood in between, so that is going to be changed.
Second floor ones.
Yeah, they're too small.
So you're gonna have the same thing. Sorry, you're gonna have the same thing on 307 that you had on 305, where you're gonna have this siding here and then a vertical.
Yeah, that siding, I think it's this already.
Okay,
I
that's this
think-
part here. It's
Yeah,
it's
that's-
already
that's
this. So
what this
what
is.
you're
I
gonna do is
think.
paint this to match that.
And then we're going to paint the match, yeah.
Okay.
If it's approved.
Are there other questions? Can we have a motion then?
I'll make a motion to approve the painting of the existing briquette, the wool skin color provided SW6148 for the serial number from Sherwin-Williams product, to closely match the existing, that's Hardy-Backer siding?
Yeah.
Hardy-Backer siding.
Second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Todd?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
– 327 South New Street, please.
Hello, I'm
Hello.
Eric DeLong. I'm a principal with USA Architects out of Easton.
Anthony Civitella, senior designer for USA Architects.
If you could both could please sign in and print your name so I can read them. Thank you so much. And just for the public record, I'm going to be distributing just one page taken from the design guidelines for storefronts. That'll become evident as I go through my description.
Okay. Thanks.
So the time limit of 45 minutes will have to start after my description, which will probably last 45 minutes. This is quite involved, and for two of you, you have not been exposed to this project. For two of you have. It has been quite a history, and I'm not even attempting to describe in detail that history. I did bring the minutes and the resulting resolutions of those histories if we need to reference them.
Okay.
But I'm trying my best to be concise, but I do have to follow rules and regulations of assessing the existing buildings, talking about certain things. So
We count on you for, Jeff.
bear with me as I go through those procedures.
Can I just ask a clarifying question before you
Sure.
get into it? Where is precisely the site for this project? I'm one of the people that has not been exposed to it.
So
So
it
is this bound by New Street? It's at the corner of 4th and New?
No,
New
it
and
extends from the
Grand
Greenway
Greenway, okay,
till about 2/3 up that block.
thank you.
The street numbers would be 319, 321, 323,
Okay,
325, and 327.
but the one that's on, is it 4th Street is not being altered at the corner?
Correct. Yeah, it
Okay.
doesn't extend the
Thank
whole
you.
blocks. No
Okay.
problem.
Let her rip.
So, okay, even though it's identified properly location 327, it actually, as I described to Mr. Chambers, is a series of buildings. So the first structure is 319 South New Street. It is a single-story, semi-detached, commercial, wood frame building with a flat roof. That building dates from circa 1900. However, many architectural features have been lost over time, so it can no longer be assigned a defining style. An ornamental cornice at the main or the west facade has been covered over by a steep shed roof with asphalt shingles. The remaining front facade as well as the side and rear facades are painted beige. The storefront includes a large double shop window with upper divides set in wooden frames, a paneled and glazed entrance door, and a retractable awning. The next structure is 321 through 323 South New Street. It is a 3-story, 4-bay, attached commercial and residential brick masonry building with a flat roof, ornamental upper cornice, decorative window heads, and an altered storefront. The building dates from circa 1885 and is Italianate in style. The original brick facade is painted beige, while the two storefronts include large divided glass display windows set in aluminum frames, recessed entrances, and retractable awnings. This property also includes a series of 2-story and single-story rear additions, several dating from the early 20th century, as evidenced by segmental brick arched window and door openings. The next structure, again heading south, is 325 South New Street. It is a 3-story, 3-bay, attached commercial and residential brick masonry building with a flat roof and an altered storefront. Like the adjacent structure, this building dates from circa 1885 and was probably Italianate in style. However, the exposed front facade was treated with a stucco veneer and given an etched pattern often referred to as brick coat, an imitation red brick sometime during the mid-20th century. The storefront was probably altered at the same time, resulting in one set of steps leading up double doors into a commercial space and flanked on either side by small shop windows, while another set of steps lead up to a single door that services residential units at the upper floor levels. A shed roof with asphalt shingles delineates the entry level from the upper floor levels and includes a retractable awning. The remaining visible side facade and the rear facade have been covered in yellow stucco with a textured surface. Original architectural features were lost during facade renovations, so it can no longer be assigned a defining style. The entire structure seems to be vacant. The structure at 327 South New Street is a single-story, attached, commercial, wood-framed building with a flat roof and includes a large, single-story masonry rear addition with a flat roof. The main building dates from circa 1900, as does the rear addition. However, many architectural features have been lost over time, so it can no longer be assigned a defining style. An ornamental upper cornice at the main or west facade remains visible and is painted deep red. while the upper facade has been covered over and painted bright white. The remaining front facade is painted deep red, while the rear facade has been covered in yellow stucco with a textured surface. The storefront includes an off-center, paneled, and glazed entrance door, a large shop window set in wood frames, 2 smaller shop windows set in aluminum frames, and a retractable awning. So those descriptions represent the structures currently existing and also currently part of tonight's discussion. Proposed alterations: the applicant proposes to demolish all 4 existing structures in order to construct a new 7-story mixed-use building with ground floor retail and tenant amenity space. I think the formal agenda did not use the word demolition. Well, I specifically use that because, like the previous applicant, we're going to have to break this down into at least 2 resolutions or motions because they're 2 separate certificates currently under question. The first one deals specifically with demolition and the size and scale of the resulting design project. The second resolution dealt with more specifics, and they're requesting modifications to both of those certificates, and therefore we have to have 2 separate resolutions because the modifications relate to 2 separate resolutions.
Okay.
First one being demolition. This design guidelines I use for my assessment include the Secretary of Interior Standards number 5, has to do with distinctive materials, features, finishes, and construction techniques that characterize a property should be preserved. Secretary of Interior Standards number 6, deteriorated historic features will be repaired rather than replaced. Where the severity of the deterioration requires replacement, the new feature will match the old in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities where possible material. Secretary of Interior Standards number 9, I read it on the agenda item 1. I'm going to repeat it because it's important for the discussion. New additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction will not destroy historic materials, features, and spatial relationships that characterize the property. The new work is to be differentiated from the old, but also be compatible with the historic materials, features, size, scale, and proportion, as well as massing to protect the integrity of the property and its environment. I also cited the Bethlehem Ordinance that Mr. Evans read from at the beginning of tonight's meeting. There's also specific guidelines concerning demolition, and I quote, "The HCC will not recommend approval for demolition unless the proposed demolition involves a non-significant building, provided that demolition will not adversely affect those parts of the site or adjacent properties that are significant." And then also the design guidelines concerning new construction. There's a whole booklet on that. I'm just going to be quoting from very specific components of those. The one has to do with size, scale, and proportion. New construction should relate to the dominant proportions, size, and scale of the period buildings in the district, and for us that period is 1895 to 1950. Rhythm and patterns. Design elements of principal facade should reflect and maintain the neighborhood patterns of period buildings, again, the period 1895 to 1950, including but not limited to the following: prevalent numbers of bays, door and window placement, floor-to-floor and cornice heights, spacing between windows and doors and between windows and cornices or roof lines, and dimensions of the facade's base and cornice. 3, windows and door openings. The size and design of window and door openings should be similar to those of period buildings, again, 1895 to 1950, within the immediate neighborhood. Materials and textures. Building materials, textures, and treatments should be compatible with those of period buildings, again, 1895 to 1950, in the immediate neighborhood. Traditional materials common in this district include brick, wood, and stone. Architectural details. New construction should include details and appurtenances reflecting the character-defining features of the neighborhood's buildings of period significance, such as porches, porticos, cornices, lintels, arches, coinings, and chimneys. Shape and massing. New construction should incorporate massing, building shapes, and roof shapes that are present in period buildings. Streetscapes. New construction shall reflect the prevailing setbacks and physical elements which define streetscapes, including brick walls, wrought iron fences, building facades or combinations of these which form a visual continuity and a cohesiveness with period buildings that date 1895 to 1950. There are also specific guidelines for signage and awnings, and there are also very specific guidelines for storefronts, of which I have just one page that I distributed at the beginning of my assessment that includes kind of a helpful checklist of what are considered appropriate details of appropriate storefronts within the district. So that's my introduction to this project. Now my evaluation, the effects on the district, and recommendations. The Certificate of Appropriateness application indicates the intent to demolish all 4 existing structures in order to construct a new 7-story mixed-use building. The HCC previously conducted a series of discussions about this proposed project during the period 2020 to 2022. I remember sitting here wearing masks during most of those discussions. The initial meetings with now former applicant, this is someone new, we haven't seen this team before, also include substantial public commentary, objecting emphatically to the proposed project, and resulted in 2 consecutive HCC recommendations that the Bethlehem City Council deny the proposed development project, mainly due to the inappropriateness of the building height and the proposed demolition of several contributing historic structures. Again, many of those meetings had quite a lot of public commentary. I don't see anybody here tonight, but I think it's important, especially for the 2 of you who weren't here, to really understand the background of what we went through back then. Subsequent HCC meetings occasionally involved input from select City Hall staff and ongoing public commentary, resulting in a divided HCC support. That's when we had actually 7 members. So 4 voted in support, 2 voted to deny, and 1 abstained on a smaller scale project during their meeting on June 21 of 2021. That certificate was approved by City Council soon thereafter and identified which structures could be demolished and what historic structure must be retained, along with the appropriate overall shape and massing, size, scale, and proportion, and streetscapes of the design proposal. So we had 1 certificate that ultimately resulted in some demolition and a limitation on size, scale, and proportion. The applicant returned to HCC several more times to address design issues concerning rhythm and patterns, window and door openings, materials and textures, as well as architectural details. That ultimately led to HCC's recommendation of a second certificate during an extraordinary meeting on January the 5th, 2022, that was subsequently approved by City Council. The drawing set at that time was prepared by Bellina Group, LLC, and dated December the 6th, 2021, and served as the basis for HCC's recommendations. Those 2 certificates in the accompanying drawing set represented the last time that HCC considered this development project. The current application and the accompanying drawing set, now prepared by USA Architects, are dated January 29, 2026. The accompanying project narrative is lacking in specifics typical of a large-scale development project. The supplemental items include a letter from North Star Construction Management, Inc., dated February the 3rd, 2026, and dated to a Mr. Palomino, the owner representative, along with supporting documents from DCI Engineers and USA Architects that summarize the respective conclusions against retaining a historic front facade at 321 through 323 South New Street. That was the facade that was captured in the first certificate as required to be retained, restored, and integrated into the design project. The provided drawings include an initial sheet with, they're not numbered, so I'm just going to go through them, with a first floor plan and a second floor plan that's the second through seventh floors. So one sheet is floor plans. The next sheet is west elevation. The next sheet is north elevation. The next sheet is east elevation. And the final sheet is south elevation. On each of the elevation pages, you'll find at the left a grayscale facade labeled previously approved HCC elevation, and a depiction of each building facade at the right in color labeled proposed. So on the left, you see in grayscale the facade that you last saw, those of you who were on HCC at that time, and relating to that certificate of appropriateness. The colored facades or elevations represent the applicant's current proposal. In summary, many items previously determined by the HCC as appropriate and subsequently approved by City Council are now being requested by the current applicant for modifications. This assessment presents each item from the approved certificate followed by the applicant's proposed modifications. Some are minor, while others are quite significant. Ultimately, each line item warrants discussion in order to determine appropriateness. So I'm going to take a breather, and then I'm going to walk you through the main points of concern from the first certificate
Okay.
and my observation of what has changed from that certificate to now. And it's probably appropriate at that point to stop, because that has to deal with the first certificate, which deals with demolition and the
Which makes the second
size
one
and
moot if,
because if you don't approve that, then why
exactly.
put you through everything else?
Yep.
So, okay. So the active certificate dates from June 21, 2021. It included 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of overarching topics. The first one, the demolition of existing structures at 319, 321 through 323, except the front facade. So the back, but not the front. 325 and 327 now South New Street. The certificate allowed the demolition of those structures. So the entire structure at 319, entire structure 325 and 327, and everything but the front facade at 321 and 323. The current application modification is to demolish all the existing structures in their entirety. Second category was the rehabilitation of the salvaged front facade at 321, 323 South New Street, and integration of that facade into the overall development project. The current application modifies that by the fact that they're proposing demolition. There is no longer the ability to rehabilitate the front facade, much less integrate it into the overall development project. The third component is to replace the existing structures with a 9-story mixed-use building that measured 110 feet wide, approximately 75 feet deep, and approximately 88 feet high at its shortest, or the northwest corner, and 92 feet at the tallest or northwest corner. So it's not immediately obvious, but that portion of New Street has a significant pitch to it. And so when you demolish 4 buildings, the height of a building differs dramatically from one side of New Street to the other side. The replacement structure is a 7-story, so no longer 9-story, mixed-use building that measures approximately 93 feet wide rather than 110 feet wide. And I'll come back to that in just a moment. Approximately 96.5 feet deep and approximately 75 feet high at the shortest and 78.5 feet at the tallest or northwest corner. The previous one had a mechanical penthouse that did not factor in the height equation. The current proposal has no mechanical penthouse. The difference in the width dimension is the fact that the previous design included the air rights over the service alley or Graham. It's not really even an alley
Graham
that
Place.
service vehicular traffic into the inner block. There was for lack of a better term, a bridge over that or a cantilever over that, and residential units above. And this application no longer has the development of air rights over Graham, hence the smaller width dimension. 9 stories to 7 stories. However, these stories are a bit taller each, so it's not exactly a true subtraction of the 9 floors. So from 92 feet at the tallest down to 78.5 feet at the tallest. The previous one had entry level of 6,500 square feet of commercial and community space. It was lacking the Graham Place. The upper level floor levels had 8,000 square feet each and included a mix of 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and 2 bedroom, 2 bath apartments. The current proposal, the entry is includes 1,900 square feet of commercial space, 4,300 square feet of community space only for the tenants, and the upper floor levels include approximately 6,200 square feet on each floor level. There's a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom residential units. There's no apartment layout, so I don't know how many bathrooms. And the final component of that resolution, floor heights of the lowest levels match those of the neighboring buildings. And we had kind of an entire block depiction mentioning also or depicting also the buildings that Mr. Chambers was asking about earlier that showed how the previous building connected to the adjacent structures. So down that pitch along New Street. That was very important to this commission. We had quite a few discussions about that. And also representatives of the city's planning department expressed concern about that. So we worked really hard with the previous applicant to make sure that cornices, floor levels, et cetera, match those of the existing, not only at the street level, but also at the upper levels as well, stepping down as the buildings step down the hill. With the current application, I'm not able to discern if floor levels match those of the neighboring buildings because there's no context. We don't have those same drawings. And with the loss of the historic facade, we even lose the one context we had around which really the previous design concept was based, which was the historical facade at 321 through 323 South New Street. That had an intermediate cornice and had floor levels. And if you look at the depictions of the previous iteration, those cornices and floor levels influenced the design, at least of the lower 3 levels of the previous design. With the loss of that facade, we no longer have that historical context in this proposal. So those were the main components of that first certificate. I read you what was captured in those and what the current applicant is proposing to modify.
Okay, we should look for some comment from you with respect to Jeff's observations and recommendations.
Yeah, I'll talk to the existing facade, the one that was previously requested to remain. You'll see in the report that we have a structural report that you guys have that discussed that this is a failing brick structure, double wide brick structure that is actually sitting on wood framing. So it's a floating 2-story brick structure above the existing storefronts below. It is tied back in several locations to try to solve the cracking and the bowing that is currently occurring in that wall. And there is a resounding thought from a demolition contractor who also issued a report, and the structural engineer, that this wall will not survive any sort of shoring that would be required to keep it in place, or any kind of reestablishment of structure of that bearing structure of that wall. It's just, with the new building going around it, it's just not going to be able to remain. And not to mention that it is all wood framing. The proposed construction that Anthony will go over with you in a bit is a podium construction, which is typical for a lot of the apartment buildings going up now. First 2 stories of non-combustible construction. And this wood support structure for this existing brick wall is wood. It's all wood structure in that building right now. So that supporting structure isn't even compliant in the new podium construction code regulations, where the first 2 stories, we'd have a 2-story podium, all has to be non-combustible construction. This beam would fall in that 2 stories of non-combustible construction. So that's a logistics nightmare. And not to mention the fact that the wall is actively failing. There's through plates trying to support that to walls in behind it that are going to be removed. So all those through plates would have to be try to reestablish, and it's not going to happen without that wall deteriorating. If not immediately in the near future, and then that creates more issues of its own. So that's why we feel that it's best to simply remove that existing facade. And then Anthony kind of went through and took a look at the elevations to kind of
Yes.
historically.
Right. So we wanted to look at how we can capture some of that historic elements that was a part of that facade, and then in general look at how we can incorporate the building with a lot of the historic elements that are seen in and around the historic district of Bethlehem. So if you're looking at the west elevation, which is the main facade, one thing we wanted to do was try to use the grade change to our advantage, where it lends itself to kind of start breaking up the building into 3 vertical bays, which is what was the buildings that were there previously. You had 3 buildings that were kind of distinguishing.
Point of order. I'm dealing with things that existed on the original, the first certificate. He's already going to things that were included on the second certificate that I have not assessed yet.
Okay.
So I would respectfully request the discussion be related to demolition, size, scale, and proportion at this moment, please.
Thanks, Jeff. Yep.
So then we'll just leave it at, when we get to the design, we did try to make up for the fact that we were losing that existing facade.
Okay, so you would summarize by saying that you don't see the input that you have from other professionals says that retaining any portion of that facade is not practical or viable.
Correct.
That basically what,
That's where we got to in these reports from a structural engineer, from a demolition contractor, that the demolition contractor didn't even want, he wouldn't vouch for the fact that it's going to stay standing once he finished the work. That's how much they're worried about the structure, and the structural engineer flat out in describing how the existing wall is being pinned back to existing walls and such, just to try to keep it cracking anymore. And now you'd be losing that. You'd be losing all those tiebacks. So there just really is no solution to be able to shore that up. Not to mention the shoring you'll see in the structural report. Maybe it's the demo contractor report, because it's on a hill. It's on that hill on New Street. The shoring becomes even more complicated to try to shore it laterally from the front and stuff like that, to try to keep that hovering 2-story brick wall in place, and then kind of carve in around it. It's just it's too much.
So I'll say that I wasn't part of the commission at the time that this was initially evaluated. And I just want to say that in the context of, I don't think I can vote to demolish this building at 323 New Street in good conscience. unless that there was significant proof shown to me that every potential design solution was explored to preserve that building. And I totally agree. It's not a practical proposition to preserve that facade and integrate it into the new structure. But, sitting here, I can't help but wonder if there are other design solutions that would allow you to preserve that entire building and still build a successful project by taking down some of the other non-contributing buildings, because 323 New Street is a beautiful old building in a very prominent spot along New Street, and I would hate to see it torn down. I'll say that further analysis of this proposal is nearly impossible because there's not adequate drawings provided in terms of the existing streetscape, renderings of that streetscape with the proposed project. I mean, this is a very significant project. We've got to see how it fits in the context of New Street. So you're going to have to provide at least drawings, and my preference would be to be able to see it in 3 dimensions with renderings. That's all I have to say about this certificate.
Other comments?
I just have one question, more so than a comment, but so you're saying that, and I just want to make this clear to myself from a code's perspective, and if you don't know the answer, that's fine, but I'll research it myself if not. So you're saying, would the podium non-combustible construction be compromised if with the wood on the facade was to stay?
Yes, because the podium construction has to be type 1 construction.
Right.
So, and the beam supporting that 2-story brick facade, the second and third floors, is a wood.
Okay.
It's wood structure, wood posts on the ends and in the center.
Yeah, it doesn't work at all.
Right.
Yeah.
I just wanted for clarification because I'm assuming the whole thing behind this is to use the podium style construction, right? So, okay.
Yeah, we don't want to do type 1 all the way up, and we'd like to do the podium and
I mean, you can't, even if you do type 1 all the way up, you can't.
even if you
Make
do
that
type-
work
yeah,
with the-
now instead of just the first 2
Doesn't
floors
work.
of type 1, now you're the whole thing type 1. So even more problems.
Is there any option for salvage of any of the architectural aspects? They look like they're mostly concrete, or at least some sort of stone. Is there any purpose in possibly repurposing instead of just, obviously the wall can't stand up, but those other components? I don't know if that's been
Well,
investigated at all.
I think the brick has been painted several times. So, I think any of its original
Okay.
integrity has been.
Yeah, I'm not
kind of
talking about the brick.
thrown
I'm
into
talking
second
about
floor.
like the cornices and the lintels over the windows and things like that.
Like the dental details.
The ornamental things, not the structural.
They're from the survey, it looks like they're of wood it's been painted
They're
several
wood as well?
times. There's can certainly be an attempt for a restoration of those
Mhm.
ornamental pieces.
Or at least replication of them. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to go down the route of demolition without an option that shows something with some more historical representations.
Sure.
implied.
And not to get into the design part,
Right.
but the cornice detailing that we would try to replicate would be of similar kind. And we've done it before where we could use identical profiles of existing details in and around, like on other buildings. So it could be certainly a possibility where we could replicate the profile or the detailing of that and recreate it in kind as well.
it's just not, and I know we're not getting there yet, but it just doesn't, it's not, you're saying it, but it's just not shown in the next iteration of the conversation. So it just
Right, sure.
seems a little concerning. So that's all about the demo of the building. If it's not going to move forward, some sort of historical problem.
We could open now for any public comment if there's,
Can I make a public comment?
sure. Step up to,
But I'm associated with these guys?
Not sure I can talk and write at the same time, so. Or property address, do I put anything or? Oh, okay, I didn't know if you wanted mine or. Okay. My name's Craig Johnson with North Star Construction. Just want to clarify a little bit, the existing construction of the existing building. So it's obviously a wood frame. So obviously, when they build these things, they build the wood frame, put the front wood sheathing on, and then from that, they apply all the finished materials. So brick, everything else. So the brick is tied to the framing. It's tied to a brick beam. I'm sorry, it's tied to a wood framing, and the brick's tied to a wood beam. There's no way to separate the wood from the brick and make some other structure to support it. There's no chance, which then means there's going to be wood within the assembly, which is just not allowed. So there's no schemes by which you can delaminate brick from the existing structure and make it
Oh, I
work.
wasn't, finish your thought. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Go ahead.
That's the end of my thoughts.
To recommend this is not a member of the public. This is obviously a person of the team. So I'm going to
Yeah.
change his identity not to public comment, but to part of
Okay.
the applicant.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And when I say other schemes being explored, it's design party that would preserve that building entirely and not just preserving the facade. Because I agree, the preservation of that facade without the building that it's in front of
Right.
is not feasible.
Yeah, obviously that would just change the whole program of the building. And, I think one thing that's notable is the previous approved application was 9 stories. Certainly this is lower, less intrusive. So it does help with the character that I think you guys are trying to portray before by the code. So, there's definitely some benefits to this building as compared to the previous application that was approved from that standpoint. And certainly, looking at details for window headers and things like that, absolutely, that can be considered. We have window headers, so to make them more, if they're not already in line with what you're looking for, to try and do those things, that shouldn't be a problem. We're just trying, if we have existing wood headers that are not in great shape,
Yeah.
there's not much point in using them.
But we
Yeah.
could emulate something like that.
Yeah, I was
Sure.
under the impression they were concrete, but it doesn't make any sense that they were. But yeah.
All right,
thank you for your input.
Ben.
All right. Do we have a motion here? That'll. Well, I move that we would table this discussion until we get a more complete presentation of the possibilities around 323 with the appropriate additional three-dimensional lighting and shadow effect and so on, things that we don't have currently. That is a key element to our deciding about whether or not demolition is appropriate. And I don't think we've gotten far enough along with that, considering the impact of its location and its connection to the community. So that would be my motion at this point. Is there a second?
I would second that.
Okay. Todd?
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So,
I was just hoping to get, just so we don't keep repeating the process, we get just a clarification on all the different things you're looking for. USA guys, do you know exactly what you need to show?
Yeah, they renderings 3D. Yeah.
How about the rest of the block? Right, you guys referenced the block before. Do you need to see you want to see the whole block?
We need to see the adjacent buildings. Yeah, drawn. I mean, if you're going to present it in a 2D elevation, then we need to see the continuation of the streetscape, right?
Yeah, the application.
Our mistake with that was that we assumed the previous approved was just elevation, so we're just comparing to that, so I understand.
Yeah,
Yeah, the application does require scale drawings, so I agree that three-dimensional, although there are hesitations with three-dimensional because of the ability to manipulate. So that's why we do require scale facade drawings. They can supplement those all they want with
I-
Photoshop or whatever, but I need scale drawings of that.
I agree,
streetscape.
Jeff.
Thank you.
100%. Ideally, we would see, let's be totally clear. Ideally, we'll see scale elevations with the streetscape of the adjacent buildings and some perspective renderings to accompany that.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
thank you.
Do we need to go into the second?
No.
Yeah, okay.
Ask a question about that.
Yeah.
If there's anything in the second presentation that is above and beyond what you'd like to see from what you just described,
So, yeah.
mention that.
I mean, we find ourselves in this.
Order. I need to understand, are we on record? Am I taking minutes? Is
Yes,
this an
you're-
internal discussion?
Yeah, you're still taking
So- okay,
minutes.
thank you.
I'm just giving the applicant some insight. You know, we run into this a lot where somebody comes in to ask to demolish a structure, right? But it's so closely tied to what's going back in its place that we can't normally evaluate one out the other. So while we can say, no, we don't want to demolish this building, right? We need to see, I think, and evaluate it in the context of the proposal as well. But I think bringing back the streetscapes and the perspectives will help us understand what you're proposing a little better so we can evaluate the two in concert, even though Jeff is still going to make us do demolition and then what we're replacing it with as two separate certificates. Does that make sense?
And, excuse me, Jeff, just for clarification, there is a COA for the demolition, the previous demolition, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so this is just a modification to the demolition or a revision to the COA.
Yes. So I did submit my assessment in advance and I tried to color code it.
Okay,
So green, meaning go, was the
Yep.
what they have permission to do. Red was stop, meaning you don't have permission for that. So it was more than demolition. It had to do with size and scale and proportion. It did not get into details.
Okay.
Details came with the second certificate. And that's why I stopped the discussion
Mhm.
because
No, I
it was leading
understand.
to that. But yes, Mr. Chambers is right. Ultimately, there'll be two separate ones, one dealing with demolition, size, scale, and proportion, the other dealing with specifics, materials, window types, doors, all those kind of things. Yeah.
So in the green category, we have a certificate of appropriateness for demolition of all the existing structures with the exception of the facade of 323 New Street.
321, 323, correct.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yep.
and then second part of that was for a 9-story.
9 stories, mixed use,
Thank you.
et cetera, et cetera.
That
Mhm.
that's important. Yep.
And then finally, the floor heights match neighboring buildings or in cornice height, all those kind of things, specifically the streetscape, that was important. And with the loss now of the Italianate facade, we don't have anything except the rest of the block as our context.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the minutes? Any motion?
No, we didn't have them.
Oh,
have a meeting
right. We
last
didn't have a
month.
meeting last month, right?
December. So motion. Yeah, good.
Motion to approve the December meeting minutes as submitted by
Second.
Mr. Long.
Thank you.
And last week, just for the records captured on, we did postpone election of officers till we had our full complement of HCC members.
Okay.
With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I
Hey,
second
Jeff, we're off the record.
Hold on just a second.
There's the copies of this.